Now, when I started this channel, there were 3 tier list ideas I had for making videos about. One of them being the current Bristol City squad, another one being the kits. And this one, I think it's a pretty timely time to actually upload something like this. We're going to talk through recent managers. Right, before I start grading these managers on the tier list, you can see there we've got great, good, okay, and rubbish. I just want to say a couple of things. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for all of the support I've had on the videos so far. When I started this channel, I had really no idea what to expect, and the views, support, likes, etc. I've had on all of the videos I've made so far has been amazing, to be honest. So I just wanted to say thank you very much, and I can promise you that I'll do my best alongside all the other things I'm doing at the moment to make as much Bristol City content for you as possible. When our new manager gets announced, I'll certainly be talking about them, and likewise any new transfer deals or rumours, etc. And in fact, I'll talk about my favourite transfer targets in a future video as well. Second of all, I wanted to pitch the level of sort of Bristol City expertise I have, right? I moved to Bristol 4 years ago now, and I've had a season ticket ever since I moved to the city, right? So my knowledge under the times of Nigel Pearson and Liam Manning are pretty good. Before that, I've had a sort of mixed record just with other things I've been doing in my life, which has meant I haven't really been able to support Bristol City massively closely under some of these managers' reign. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of research. And I think it might also add to the video just looking at what the managers achieved, you know, how they got sacked, etc. during their time at Bristol City. But I'm going to run this in chronological order. First up, we've got Liam Manning then. And looking at this tier list, he's obviously gotten us, right, top 6 for the first time in nearly 2 decades. So that's an incredible achievement. I'm very grateful for what Liam Manning did. But he's left after, 18 months in charge? Hasn't even, by the way, right, hasn't even said goodbye to the fans. There was no message to say, you know, thank you for your support or anything like that. He's just left. So for me, I appreciate what he did on the football pitch for us. I'm just going to give him a good. I think, you know, his time at Bristol City and him as a manager is quality, but I just think it's sort of tainted a little bit by the fact, well, he wasn't here for very long, and also he hasn't said goodbye after he left. You know, all the stuff I know he's gone through, it's not the fans' tragedy, of course, but he went through his own personal tragedies this year. But I think as a fan base at Bristol City, we really rallied around and supported him. And you know, from my point of view, it's I guess he appreciated it at the time, but it's a shame not to see a statement of any kind come from Liam Manning just to say thank you and goodbye, basically. Now we've got Nigel Pearson, who, well, turned Bristol City from basically a team that could have gotten relegated from the Championship at the time, I think. We weren't in the best financial situation. So he had to drag a squad out of the mud, basically. He turned them into, I know Bristol City are considered a really boring Championship team by most football fans, right? But to go from a team that could get relegated in a bit of a financial issue to a team that, on the recruitment of a new manager, got the playoffs, that's almost, not saying almost the job, but it's sort of the job that he did at Leicester as well. He laid the foundation for another manager to come on in and, you know, build some success. And I really liked Nigel Pearson. I know we didn't win trophies under him. I know there were some frustrating times under him. I don't know. I just really liked him as a manager. I really liked him. I liked how he was. He was exactly what the Bristol City squad needed, I think, when he came in. And I think it's something that Liam Manning was missing in his management style as well. But Nigel Pearson can be a bit nasty, right? And I quite like that about him. And to be honest, that might have been one of the reasons that he got the sack in the end, was that his sort of directness and not really caring what other people think about what he has to say, that might have led to his disagreements with the board and potentially getting sacked. So yeah, Nigel Pearson. Actually, no, I'm gonna lower it a little bit. I think I'm gonna say he's sort of between good and great for me. Yeah, between good and great. I prefer him slightly, I think, to Liam Manning. But at the same time, I don't think I can call him great. Another thing, by the way, it certainly came out, well, certainly looking at his Twitter and stuff, and obviously he wants to protect his own privacy, which is completely understandable. It looked like he had some real, like, sort of health concerns towards the end of his time at Bristol City. You know, he was coaching us on a set of crutches. Did he have to miss some games because of his health? I think he did. So his health really deteriorated towards his time at Bristol City. Whether that was related to the club or not, I don't know, but you know, he stuck that out during times where it was really difficult for him and stayed in charge of our football club, right? So, yeah, respect to Nigel Pearson. I'm probably just going to say he's good, though. So looking at the managerial history then of Bristol City, the guy before Nigel Pearson was Dean Holden, who, well, amongst some fans, I think is a little bit of a meme and a laughing stock, right? So here's a brief synopsis of his time at Bristol City. So he obviously initially took over after Lee Johnson was sacked. He was his assistant, took on the role full-time after that. 4 wins in all competitions, so 4 consecutive wins when he started. A series of injuries. So Google thinks it was a series of injuries and poor run of form ultimately led to his dismissal, right? So yeah, started well, which led to him obviously getting the job, you'd imagine. And then the downward spiral sort of started from there. And then his dismissal, before his dismissal, was a run of 6 consecutive defeats in all competitions. To be fair, during my time as a season ticket holder at Bristol City, I've had some rubbish, but I don't think I've witnessed 6 consecutive defeats. Yeah, 6 consecutive defeats in all competitions, a 6-0 loss to Watford, 2-0 home defeat to Reading, and then he was sacked. So Dean Holden then at Bristol City. Where is he on this list? There he is. Can you call him rubbish? Can you call him rubbish? Good start. I'm going to say okay. Let him off for the good start. Obviously, the run at the end was absolutely horrendous. And in the comments, you might be able to chime in with a little bit more information about Dean Holden than I can provide you. But yeah, not a great time. We'll go okay for him. The next gaffer we've got then is Lee Johnson. And I'd say it's kind of a spoiler for where I might rank one of the other managers. But in my mind in Bristol City, there are 3 managers that sort of stand out as ones who have, maybe actually 4 managers who stand out as ones that have genuinely achieved something at Bristol City, right? Like actually winning silverware or getting playoffs, something like that, right? Lee Johnson, he feels like he's one of those 4. The cut run in that season was just absolutely incredible. And the team we had then, it was so legendary. You know, the likes of Bobby Reid, Joe Bryan, Josh Brownhill, Marlon Packin is sort of pomp, Aidan Flint. You know, the team we had then was absolutely exceptional. And one thing I would say that kind of let that team down at the time, genuinely, was our goalkeeper at times. I really feel like I went to a fair few Bristol City games during that sort of time that team was around. And I just feel like we never really had a goalkeeper that could help the team really get to the top level. We obviously had Frankie Fielding, who wasn't amazing, was he? And I don't even think Fielding played against Man United, did he? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, his key moment for me as a Bristol City manager was obviously that cup run. He guided Bristol City to the best ever finish in the Championship since Gary Johnson was manager, so that's another one. And then was sacked after losing to Cardiff after 4 consecutive defeats in July 2020. And he achieved, which is pretty incredible to be honest, a run of 9 consecutive wins in the 2018-2019 season. So there were some real highs under Lee Johnson. And it just felt like a relationship between manager and a club that sort of just came to its natural end. You know, there wasn't, people may have been calling for his head, but there were never really like any too much animosity, I don't think, towards Lee Johnson. I don't think we want him back at the club. But likewise, I don't think any Bristol City fans would look back on the time under Lee Johnson as like a bad time and think of him as a bad manager, right? I think that's a pretty safe statement to make. So I'm going to go back to my lovely, lovely tier list, and I'm going to put Lee Johnson as good. I'm going to make him good. Better than Dean Holden, in my opinion. He was also, I think, one of our longest serving managers ever, actually, as well. He was here for quite a fair while. So that kind of says a lot, doesn't it, in the sense that he was just here for a long time. I'm going to say he's good. I think he's up there with Liam Manning and Nigel Pearson for the quality of jobs that he did. I wouldn't call him great because he didn't actually necessarily win anything major, For me, the achievement that you'd really want in terms of great is championship playoffs or a trophy, right? Well, a trophy. Yeah. I'm going to call him good. So you'll see it in the heading here. The next manager I wanted to talk about is John Pemberton. Now, he was in charge in between Steve Cotterill and Lee Johnson, right? And it certainly looks like during his time at the club, we were not in a good place. So he was, Steve Lansdowne shared some words. He was sacked alongside Des Taylor, who I think was the chief scout. Yeah, chief scout at the club at the time. We were in the relegation zone. Lee Johnson picked up a team that had won 2 of their last 22 games. And obviously John had served at Bristol City for longer than he was the manager for. But they just had a complete rehaul, basically, or a complete overhaul of the coaching staff at the club at the time. And I'm looking at, well, there's a tribute thread on the forum, right? There's a tribute thread. Everyone's sort of saying that they respected him, had a lot of time for him, but they didn't rate the higher powers that be at Bristol City didn't quite rate him as high as the fans did, by the sounds of it. And yeah, this guy, Havanatopia, saying, in spite of having a major part of the title-winning season and keeping us above water after Cotterill departed, but obviously he got sacked. So it certainly looks like, you know, the sacking in the place that we were in at the time doesn't sound great, but it looks like he's held in fairly high regard by the football club, or certainly by the fan base, right? So yeah, that's probably a good summary of his time. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with that. All right, so where does that leave him then on the tier list? Well, I don't think we can call him rubbish. I think it would be unfair to call him rubbish. So I'm just going to say, okay, you know, played a part in, well, the legend that is Steve Cotterill's job, who we'll talk about next. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm going to go okay. Which obviously means the next manager to talk about is Steve Cotterill. And, well, I think I share an opinion with most Bristol City fans that you look back on Steve Cotterill's time at the club, and certainly when we were in League One, it was just an absolute match made in heaven, wasn't it? And the guy, I think, is just going to be regarded as one of the best managers in the history of Bristol City, really. And it, you know, it's quite a, I don't know what I was saying about words then. It's quite a thing, isn't it, having a Bristol City gaffer with a West Country accent as well. I quite liked that about him too. Obviously got us promoted from League One, which I don't know if that points record's been broken yet. It was a points record, you know, league win and a Johnson Paints Trophy win. It was the starting, I think, the forming of that initial kind of squad that went on with Lee Johnson, and was probably the best squad Bristol City have ever had. I think I would say that. You know, the team we had in 2008 was obviously epic and got us to the playoff final or whatever, but I'd make an argument that squad under Lee Johnson was probably the best team Bristol City have ever had, and I think there were certainly bits of it that Steve Cotterill was responsible for as well. And I'll never forget, and it still goes right now because it's absolutely perfect, the kind of quotes and stuff that he gave in his interviews and press conferences as well. That's something I didn't speak about any of the other managers, is how they behave in interviews and press conferences. Because as a fan, you don't really have many touch points with your club's manager other than watching how they get on in press conferences, basically. But yeah, I mean, the guy's just an absolute legend, isn't he? I don't need to say a whole lot more than that, I don't think. He's great. I actually saw him a few weeks back. I didn't want to bother him because he was with his wife, looking pretty happy with her, to be honest. I didn't want to trouble him. But I saw him in TK Maxx in Broadmead in Bristol a few weeks ago. And I was like, he was very well dressed. And he was certainly better dressed than most people that were clocking about Broadmead at the time. No disrespect. But so he immediately stood out to me and I was like, oh my God, that's Steve Cotterill. So anyway, just thought I'd share that. All right, the next manager we have to talk about then is Shaun ODriscoll. So I've got I'm going to use the article that was released by, this is The Guardian at the time of his sacking. So it notes that it was more than 11 years old. Wow. So he got sacked when Bristol City were 22nd in League One and also relegated in his time there. So, I mean, looking back on that time, right, I actually have a bit of pity on him, really. Because can you imagine how rubbish having the Bristol City manager's job would have been at that time? And how stressful and just awful it would have been? That might give away what I think of him as a manager, but I take pity on him, really. I don't know if anyone shares that opinion, but yeah. And also, it certainly looks like at the time John Lansdowne came out and said he gave him as much time as he could, increasingly concerned about the club's league position and just had to make a change, basically. Yeah. In the relegation zone for most of the season after being relegated to League One in the first place. So, yeah, obviously that didn't go well. And it was 12 league games, I think, in the time without a win. He won just 11 games in his 40 at the helm, and then obviously suffered relegation and struggled in League One as well. So I think track record as Bristol City manager there is not great. So Shaun ODriscoll, whilst I take pity on you, I'm going to give you rubbish. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of that one. But I think with that track record at the club, I take pity on him. And that must have been an awful job at the time, right? Awful. But yeah, rubbish, in my opinion. So the next manager then is Derek McInnes. Now, I think Google AI sums up a story that might be quite telling and might still be quite relevant now for why our previous manager has left. So he took over in October 2011. At the time, Bristol City were bottom of the championship. We survived that season, and he was on an 8-game unbeaten run at the end of the season. So that's a pretty good survival job, I would say. He inherited a team with, what it says here, players from previous managers, congested dressing room. There was a difficult time managing players' contracts. Like most Bristol City managers, you're up against it with the finances and the books, trying to balance the books. And he was sacked in 2013, January 2013, lost 4-0 at home to Leicester, club bottom of the league. And obviously Shaun ODriscoll took over and we got relegated. And, well, a telling story. McInnes has spoken about feeling let down by the club's board, stating they didn't live up to the promises of support. I specifically left that last line in there to maybe resonate with you about the current club ownership's level of support. I guess I won't go too much into the Lansdowns because I think it's, in some ways, it's almost better the devil you know with them, because what they have done is kept, our football club in survival amongst League One and the Championship for like 2 decades, basically. Whereas it could have gone a lot worse. You see the stories of other football clubs and how badly they've been run, and some of them no longer existing anymore, or some of them going all the way down to non-professional football, right? So there's a case of better the devil you know, but as a football fan, you want the best for your football club, right? You absolutely want the best for your football club. And yeah, I don't know. Under different ownership, could be gotten to the Premier League by now, who knows? But likewise, could we have gotten completely, down into non-professional football and been disbanded as a club? Who knows, right? But I think he's got to go in okay for me. It sounds like he did a pretty respectable job with the time that he had. Let down by the board. Shaun ODriscoll obviously took over after that and couldn't keep him up either. So I think that was a pretty rubbish time, wasn't it, for Bristol City in general? And I'm going to give him okay because obviously he achieved something in the sense that, we survived with him as our manager. Next up then, we've got Keith Milan. And like I did, I think with Shaun ODriscoll, we've got a post from the time of his sacking. So 3rd of October 2011, Bristol City parting companies with Keith Milan, after a 5-0 defeat to Blackpool. I guess Blackpool were pretty good back then, to be fair, but still 5-0 defeat. Holden Sexton, who was our chairman at the time, Keith reluctantly accepted the situation we were in. He could see parting of ways was the best way forward. He's worked tirelessly over the last 12 months to get us to where we want to be. He's a cracking man, first-class coach, loyal servant to Bristol City. So I think that sums things up quite nicely. Yeah, those are some good words, to be fair, upon the dismissal of our manager. It was his 3rd reign in charge of Bristol City at the time. So he took over as caretaker when Johnson quit in March 2010. And then he was assistant manager under Steve Cotterill, and then was given the full-time manager role on a 3-year contract when he took over. There we go. So shaky start to his tenure, 1 victory from 9 games, bottom of the table. Their form steadily improved, got a 15th place finish, and then obviously when he was sacked, that was the position we were in. 6 points from 10 games, and then a 5-0 defeat to Blackpool. We look at our manager history. So he had, just to give him a bit of credit, so he had 3 reigns by the looks of it. After Tinian, he was 11th of September, 2 weeks in charge. 8th of March 2010 to the 11th of May 2010, and then 12th of August 2010 to the 3rd of October 2011. Now, although that doesn't sound amazing, I don't want to call him rubbish based on that. It sounds like he was a good servant to the football club. I don't think, to be honest, if he didn't love the club, he wouldn't have stuck around, really. Maybe I'm a bit too nice to some of these managers. I've just hit my mic there out of frustration. No, I'm joking. I'm going to give him okay. I think that's fair enough, really. I don't think he was ever... It's mad that they gave him a 3-year contract based on that record, to be honest. I'm going to give him an okay. I'll give him an okay. Now, I'm a little bit too young to remember these times in great detail anyway, despite sort of following Bristol City at the time. But the next manager to talk about is Steve Cotterill, right? I can imagine, because he took over from City after his time at Reading, where he got them promoted to the Premier League. He had a fantastic time in charge of Reading, right? And that's probably, when you think of Steve Cotterill as a manager, you think of that time at Reading, right? Well, I'd certainly do anyway. I'm 28 for the record. So he resigned after, what was it, one competitive game? Yeah, poor run of form, 3-0 home defeat, Millwall. Okay, so it was 4 months, resigned after 3-0, Colin Cupboard's passion. Only one league game, sorry, not one competitive game, one league game, so 3-0 loss to Millwall. Cited the fact that he just completely lost his passion for the job, basically. Not sure if it was Bristol City that did that, but yeah, interesting one. So that sums up Steve Coppell's time here. Doesn't really need any more words to that, to be honest. I think there is a little bit of pity to be taken on him, I guess, saying he's lost his passion and there could have been some mental health issues in there and stuff as well. So I'm gonna be cognizant of that. But at the same time, I mean, you can't give him anything better than rubbish, can you? I mean, what a shocking time in charge of a football club. Yes, again, going back to, losing passion or maybe having some mental health stuff going on, understandable. But from a purely manager of Bristol City tier list perspective, I have to give him rubbish, aren't I? Well, we're going to end it with Gary Johnson then. So he was in charge from 2005 to 2010. And that was, well, the time where I went to my first Bristol City game. If I remember rightly, my first ever Bristol City game was a birthday present from my dad it was either 2007, I think it might have been 2007, the season before we got it might have been the season of promotion, actually. Yeah, I think it was 2007, summer sort of April, May 2007. Played Yeovil in the league, won 2-0. And that was where I started following Bristol City, basically. At the time, we had Enoch Shawumney up front. Right, he started up front in that game, I believe. I remember it quite vividly. And he took a shot. So I was sat in the Dolman stand at the time. So he took a shot that went over the old East End roof. That was my memory of that game. So yeah, maybe you might have fonder memories of your of Bristol City strikers, but that was my first memory of a Bristol City striker, was Enoch Shawumney. So yeah, got promoted that season, sealing it at home with a win against Rotherham. I think we were promoted, weren't we, alongside Scunthorpe at the time. I think Scunthorpe were champions, Bristol City was second. So yeah, fabulous season, obviously, for Bristol City. And then we finished fourth in the Championship the season after getting promoted. I got to the playoff final, lost 1-0. I mean, we all know the story of the playoff final, right? Dean Windass won the goal. Guy was like 38, 39 years old at the time. Also, I don't want to talk about it. But, that was an incredible time. Incredible time to be an incredible time to be a fan of Bristol City. So yeah, that ended in March of 2010. Keith Milan took over. And in February 2023, he was put into the Supporter Club and Trust Hall of Fame, for recognition of his contributions. So I think it's only fair, really, to put him in the great category, right? Like, a promotion from League One straight to a Championship playoff final is utterly outrageous, right? And the story of those playoffs and how we did it as well. Some of the players we had in our team, Lee Trundle, Adriano Basso, the goalkeeper, Bradley Orr. We had some fantastic players in that Bristol City team, didn't we? And that's to only name a few. So yeah, I think you have to give him a great. I think that's a pretty fair tier list, I do. I'd be surprised if too many people disagreed greatly with that tier list, Like I said, I pitched this video, I think, at the right level. I am not an absolute Bristol City encyclopedia or expert. I'm just a fan that runs a YouTube channel, and I've had a season ticket for the last sort of 4 years. So I'm definitely not a Bristol City expert. But at the same time, I think, well, it's my channel, so I can make videos talking about those managers. So hopefully because sometimes, right, you watch a video and when someone doesn't really know a whole lot about what they're talking about, it can be quite cringeworthy. I haven't tried to be an expert here, so hopefully it doesn't come across that way. I just thought, given the fact that we're on the hunt for a new manager at the moment, it would be a good time to make a video of this nature. So yeah, thank you very much. I'll actually sign off on this screen, shall I? Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Robin's Nest YouTube channel. Like I said, I have plenty more content coming your way. I know I'm going to make some videos about players I think we should sign, and then I'll cover some transfer news as well, and also obviously what's going on with our new manager. So please subscribe and pass on, if any of your friends you think would enjoy this content as well, please share it with them. Word of mouth is probably the best way to grow, really, isn't it? So if there's any way you could share this with your mates, I'd be very pleased and thankful for that. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of those thoughts. I'll stop rambling now. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in my next video.